Okay. Hello, everybody. Good morning. It is Sunday. Whenever we have these crazy weather events or whenever I hop on the stream, I don't know why my mind instantly blanks when I try to say what day it is. Happy Sunday, and we are going to take an extended look at the forecast once again. We're going to be talking a little bit more about what's left of our weather impact alert. I'll kind of show you snowfall totals from yesterday. We can talk a little more about what we saw yesterday, what's still out there, and just I'll give you the latest on everything that you need to know with yesterday's winter weather and then with today's very cold weather that we have in the forecast. So you know the drill. We are going to dive in and we will take a look at everything that you need to know weather-wise here for the next couple of days. We also are live on Facebook, so I'm getting set up over here, and let me pull up Facebook so that I can also answer some questions should there be any. All right, so let's kick it off with what's going on outside right now. So it's kind of a totally different scene waking up today because there's sunshine out there, but when you step outside, I mean, you can definitely feel that we were under some sort of winter weather yesterday. It's blue skies, but occasionally you can see these sky cams shaking around, and you can even see the flags blowing around over in Perry. I mean, it is cold and it is windy out there. And what brought our snow chances yesterday was that low pressure system, but there was an associated cold front. So we did bring in some polar air to most of the country. I mean, I feel like we have flipped on this temperature map, this large scale temperature map several times over the last couple of weeks, and it has looked this drastic. Just so many places under really abnormally cold temperatures for this time of year. So that again is the case across most areas, not just us, but definitely here in Georgia, here in the deep south, the southeast, all of these areas are just under some much colder numbers this morning. Statewide, that's the case. We are in a similar place to North Georgia, not even too much of a temperature spread across the state. And then here in our area, temperatures are in the mid to upper 20s now. Now, early this morning, if you happen to be up earlier today, these temperatures were actually in the teens and the low 20s. So to see now the mid to upper 20s is actually a bit of an improvement from where we were sitting early this morning, but these temperatures are still below freezing. So all the concern for anything that's left out on the roads right now, or the concern for, you know, dripping your pipes, covering your outdoor pipes, things like that, are still in play at the moment because we still haven't seen these temperatures reach over freezing just yet. So impacts from yesterday still a little bit present this morning until we can actually get these numbers to jump up above freezing. Not only that, but those numbers also just feel terrible. I mean, when I walked out my door this morning, I literally wanted to turn back around and go back inside. It is so cold because there's a breeze out there as well, and a breeze that is still really strong. Now, yesterday, the wind gusts were up to 40 miles an hour. Yesterday was a lot more dramatic than what we're sitting at this morning, but we still have some pretty decent wind out there with wind gusts up to about 25 miles an hour at times. So what that really means is just that those feels like numbers are down. Again, similar to the actual air temperature, this is an improvement at this point in time because early this morning, the feels like numbers area-wide were down in the single digits. A lot of places were close to 0 degrees, and it was just, it was a bitter way to start the day this morning. So sitting now with feels like numbers in the teens, you know, obviously it's not great, but it's better than where we were sitting this morning. So until we can get those temperatures to climb just a little bit higher, we are still in an extreme cold warning. Now you can kind of see the gap in this extreme cold warning just to the east of us, over in portions of the eastern state near Augusta and further into South Carolina. They have already taken their extreme cold warning down. It was mainly for the wind chills. I'd imagine the National Weather Service may just let this play out until 1 p.m. today because it is still so cold and because we are still below freezing. There is a concern for impacts, again, from yesterday, still lingering around through today. So we'll be paying attention to this through most of the day today. And then as we go into this afternoon, things will begin to improve. So the rest of the day, we will be in the 40s later this afternoon, believe it or not, though it won't feel like it. These temperatures will be above freezing, so that will be good for us for impacts that are still lingering around from snowfall from yesterday and any remaining ice. Also give your house a chance to kind of reheat up, give the pipes a chance to get back to a little bit more of a normal state. And today will just be basically a step in the right direction that leads us into a week long of much more seasonable temperatures. It will still be cold, don't get me wrong. It's going to be windy today. This 40 probably will feel more like a 30, but the importance of this is just that we actually will get above freezing later today. So I'm going to jump back to temperatures here in just a moment, but I'd imagine what a lot of folks are curious about this morning is kind of where we land from yesterday and where things stand this morning in terms of the actual snowfall. So this is the current satellite and radar playing over the last 5 hours, and you can see the very last of that low pressure system pushing out into the Atlantic and starting to die out. So North Carolina and portions of South Carolina dealt with snowfall even through the night and all the way into early this morning. They definitely had some areas that broke records in terms of the amount of snowfall that they saw. But now it's pretty much coming to an end for everybody, and obviously it came to an end for us here in central Georgia late last night. So what I've done here is I'm actually playing the satellite and radar out 24 hours ago so that we can kind of recap the snowfall that we saw here in our area. So this is about to reset at the top. And you can see the majority of it was over in our eastern counties. I mean, that was kind of the prediction. The guidance from the National Weather Service with that winter storm warning versus the winter weather advisory was that the eastern counties would end up seeing locally higher totals and they would actually have some decent accumulation. I'm going to pause it. So that was kind of the case through most of the early morning and the afternoon. I mean, these counties definitely got some actual accumulation, but I'm going to drag this forward to kind of the late afternoon, early evening. Now we are at 3:15 yesterday. We had this kind of secondary grouping of snowfall that came in another band. This actually did creep a little bit closer to the I-75 corridor, so this was kind of the time frame when we started to get some reports of flurries and light snowfall in places like Gray and Macon, in really light amounts I did hear from people in Warner Robins and in Perry. So that was kind of that secondary round that came through, but ultimately it still ended up mainly focused over in these eastern counties. So they kind of got another round of snowfall in the second half of the day. Obviously now it is basically said and done. We've got clear skies out there at the moment and there is no winter weather falling anymore. So it really won't be a concern through the rest of the day, and my goodness, let's hope it's not a concern heading into the weekend, next weekend again. We could definitely use a break from winter weather here in our area, but while it was here, we can take a look at some of the totals that amounted across the area. So higher totals were up in northeastern Georgia. Again, this was always going to be an eastern Georgia situation, which is why our eastern counties and our northeastern counties were more in on the mix. The closer you were to that low pressure center, the higher snowfall totals you were going to see. So that was the case yesterday for sure. I mean, take a look at some of these totals along eastern counties of North Georgia. We're talking in excess of 7 to even 8 inches in a couple of spots. I mean, those are pretty impressive totals. Even over, I'm trying to remember what counties I know over here. I know Clark County, so I know Athens is over here. And they got up to 5 inches of snowfall. So really high totals over in these areas. And it was kind of just before getting to our region that these totals really began to back off a bit. But I do remember seeing Putnam County kind of eclipse that 2-inch mark, and then over in our eastern counties, there was notable snowfall. Now, I will say this is kind of a preliminary graphic from the National Weather Service, so if you are in any of these counties and you know that you got more snowfall than this, please let us know, because the National Weather Service is really still asking for information about this. But, potentially lighter amounts than definitely what they saw up there in North Georgia. But the shading kind of shows the general trend. It could have been up to around 1 inch over in these counties, maybe locally higher amounts. And then in places where we had those really light dustings in the second half of the day, we didn't really amount to much. Here in the Macon area, I don't think we ever really got a measurable amount of snowfall, but we did have a couple of flurries throughout the day. So this is kind of the official totals, at least as of right now, before the National Weather Service gets any more information. And again, just another snowfall event in the books here that we were kind of, at least us here on the weather team, I think we're kind of happy to put this one away and keep trucking forward with the start of a new month. So since we are kind of in the extended live stream, I will talk a little bit more about what the rest of the upcoming week looks like to give you a little bit more perspective about what is ahead of us here. So that snowfall again is out of here. Through the rest of the day today, plenty of sunshine, and there really won't be much going on weather-wise tonight or throughout the day tomorrow. Monday is going to be a really good start to the work week. The skies are going to be completely clear, and there just really won't be a ton going on. Now, heading into Tuesday, really not too many changes for Tuesday either, but it may start to be a little bit of a drearier day. You can see on the future view here as we play it forward to Tuesday, cloud cover definitely starts to increase around that time, and then as we go through the day, we kind of have clouds in and out. Now we're at 11 p.m. on Tuesday, so actually majority of the day was really, really dry, but you can see by 11 p.m. we start to have some widespread showers here in our area. What's going to be happening is a cold front is on the way. Now, I want to emphasize this is pretty solidly a rain chance at this point in time. Our temperatures are going to be well above freezing. We are not talking about a winter weather situation for Tuesday night into Wednesday. This is just going to be rainfall, but it does come with a cold front. So a cold front's going to push this rainfall into our area starting late Tuesday night and then continuing with us throughout the overnight into the early morning hours on Wednesday. Obviously, this kind of bleeds into the long range here. So that will be kind of the first half of Wednesday, maybe a little bit messy on the way to work in the morning, but hopefully by the time you're coming home from work in the evening, this front will kind of have pushed most of that on and we will be drier through the second half of Wednesday. Then we go Thursday and Friday with no rain chances, and then I could jump up and down just seeing this long range model. We don't have rain chances on the way for Saturday or for Sunday, at least right now. I know you can see that the GFS is trying to just throw a bunch of these little dots all over the place. Usually this just kind of means that there's going to be increased cloud cover, but right now rain chances for the weekend look to be basically nothing. And there's definitely no winter weather chance for the weekend either. So we are going to do a happy dance about that and hope that we leave a lot of the weather craziness behind in January, unless the weather craziness wants to happen on a weekday, because who wants to have winter weather on the weekend? That's not even fun because nothing ends up being canceled. Anyways, that's my aside. So here are the headlines for the rest of this upcoming week. We are going to be above freezing today, which I'm going to touch on now because temperatures are a big part of our story. But unfortunately, we're back to the teens tonight, so we will be back down below freezing later this evening. And then we should hopefully leave the teens behind for most of the upcoming week. I think the temperatures this week are going to be a lot more seasonable for this time of year, and overall they're just going to start to look a lot better. So I had this time stamp at noon, which I guess we're so close to noon now that the graphic is struggling to even play this forward. But what I wanted to emphasize was the time frame when we'll meet freezing or be above freezing. It could be within the next hour. Now that we have plenty of sunshine, the temperature should be able to heat up pretty quickly. So we'll be back above freezing by the time we get into around noon today. And then again, we're climbing into the 40s. So by the time we hit the high temperature of the day, we will be back in the low 40s this afternoon. So here's the thing that I kind of want to emphasize about this. We are going to be above freezing, so anything that's out there on the roads right now, or maybe in your backyard, or things like that, or you're looking for times that your pipes can kind of recover, things like that, there will be this window from about noon to probably later in the evening. These temperatures don't really drop back down below freezing until later tonight. So there's a pretty good window where we're going to be above freezing later today, but like I said, heading into the overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning, there will still be a time frame where we dip back down below freezing. And actually this model here, the graph model, is really overshooting the temperatures that we have forecasted. I have us somewhere in the 20s to maybe a few spots that are going to be in the teens tomorrow morning. So the only reason that I stopped to emphasize that is just because the temperatures tomorrow morning are going to be low enough to allow for some areas to refreeze. So if there was any problem areas, especially over in the eastern counties, there is a need to kind of watch for any refreezing on early Monday morning out on the roads. But other than that, by Monday afternoon, we'll heat back up into the upper 40s and low 50s. So we should be able to recover again by the afternoon. But that will be a time frame that we want to pay attention to for potential refreezing. And then we should still be kind of near or below freezing as we head into the rest of the week. But overall, I think a lot of that moisture will be gone by Monday. So this kind of winter weather threat should hopefully end as we go into the afternoon on Monday. And then my favorite day on the 7-day forecast right now is Tuesday, because I have a high forecasted of 60 degrees. We're going to have a little bit of southwesterly flow coming in before that front moves in on Tuesday night, and it'll feel a little bit warmer on Tuesday. So kind of one day to thaw out, and then we are going to go back towards some low 50s for the rest of the week. So what about this breeze that's out there today? Like I mentioned earlier, it'll be out there for the rest of the day today, but then we will pretty much lose it as we go into the overnight hours tonight and kick off early Monday morning. So wind chill really shouldn't be much of a thing as we go into at least the next couple of days. It's really just the rest of the night tonight that you will have to worry about it. So let's talk a little bit about how that feels. Like I said, we will be in the 40s today, but I don't really, that's more important just for melting purposes. It's definitely not going to make a huge difference in terms of how things feel. It's going to be really chilly today. I'm going to stay bundled up in my jacket all day long, and it is still going to feel either near or at least below freezing through the rest of today. Then I think that the feels like number actually, strangely enough, does a better job with the actual temperature for Monday morning. Like I said, we're going to be somewhere in the low 20s, maybe in the teens for a couple of spots. So another really cold start to Monday, but without that breeze, we won't have single digit feels like numbers. And then by Monday afternoon, like I said, we climb into the upper 40s and 50s, and then we are back on a more positive trajectory for the next couple of days, much closer to average for this time of year. And average is actually only going to get warmer through the next few days or so. Oh, I actually do have a graphic on that. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on this graphic, but what I wanted to emphasize here, the main thing that I wanted to kind of say by even bringing this up at all, is that our average temperatures, our average high and low temperatures throughout this month are obviously going to climb. Now the average high, believe it or not, for this time of year is actually 61 degrees. Obviously we have been nowhere near that for many, many weeks. The average low is actually 37, so we're also well below the average low temperature as well. These two numbers that we're not even close to are actually only supposed to get warmer throughout the month of February. So in theory, by the end of the month, we're supposed to be seeing high temperatures that are in the upper 60s and low temperatures that are in the low 40s. Now, I will say the record lowest temperature that we've had in February is 8 degrees back in 1917. The warmest we had was only 3 years ago, back in 2023, at 85 degrees. Now, when you see these numbers here on the 7-day forecast, those are still below average. In the long-term forecast, so in the 7-day forecast and a little bit beyond this, we are still going to be below average for this time of year, meaning we aren't going to hit high temperatures that are in the low 60s every single day. We're going to hang out somewhere in the mid to maybe upper 50s. And the lows, you can see them here over the next 7 days, are still going to be somewhere either in the upper 20s or the low 30s. So generally speaking, we are still going to be below average for this time of year as we go into the next 7 days, but it is a trend in the positive direction because we've had a lot of mornings that have been in the teens. We've had a lot of afternoons that have been in the 40s, and overall we've been well below average for this time of year. Now we're going to start being slightly below average for this time of year, but not quite as bad. Again, that main rain chance will be on Wednesday in the first half of the day, and then basically nothing else as we head into the rest of the week and then the upcoming weekend. And tomorrow's Groundhog Day, so I can only hope that our groundhogs are going to be talking a little bit more about an early spring as opposed to 6 more weeks of winter. But we'll have to see what they say tomorrow. That will be very, very interesting. Actually, I learned today that we have the second most accurate groundhog in the country here in Georgia. General Beauregard Lee is our groundhog, and he has an 80% accuracy rate. So I'm gonna go by what General Beauregard Lee says, and we'll see about that from there. All right, I am in the comment section now. Sorry, some of these comments are making me laugh. Um, I got one question about roads from Byron to Griffin. I will say, we spoke to some EMA directors in the morning show earlier today. Now we spoke mainly to Dublin, Putnam County, and Washington County. They all kind of said that there wasn't really a ton of problem areas right now. So hopefully tomorrow morning that Byron to Griffin area may actually end up being okay. But if you're traveling at all in the morning, my advice would to be just take it slow, because tomorrow conditions on the road, there could just be a couple of problem areas, especially if you're traveling on back roads or secondary roads, things like that, that are probably not as treated or not as traveled. Those are the areas that I would watch for, but other than that, we will steadily climb into the all clear as we head into the rest of the day. So here's to calmer weather on the way, and here is to a warmer day ahead of us here with temperatures that will be above freezing. So we will be back this evening. Actually, I will be back for 13 WMAZ News at 6, and it will be a special extended version of the show that goes all the way until 7. And then, of course, we have 13 WMAZ News tonight at 11. So if you're looking for some more weather information, you can join me tonight for both of those shows. But until then, it is just going to be a pretty quiet day. So I think I'll leave a look at the sky cams on here. And if you want to keep looking at the radar, tracking the snow as it moves out into the Atlantic, feel free to jump onto our 24/7 radar. And otherwise, hope you have a great and very restful Sunday today.